If you really stop and think about it, uh, there is this very quiet, but I'd say profound anxiety humming in the background of almost every major enterprise today.
Oh, absolutely. It's palpable.
Yeah, like have you felt it when you're just looking at the news? It's that slight, pit in your stomach when you realize that by adopting modern AI, which everyone is doing,
Hmm.
you might actually be handing over all your most valuable hard-earned knowledge.
Right. The crown jewels of the company.
Exactly. Your company's literal secret sauce. You're handing it over to an AI model you don't actually own on servers you can't control. It's this very real tension right now as AI just sweeps through every single corner of the industrial world.
I mean, it is entirely justified to feel that way because, look, we are essentially watching legacy companies take decades of proprietary operational data, right?
Yeah.
We're talking their maintenance logs, their engineering standards, highly sensitive safety protocols, and they just pour it into these massive, opaque systems in the cloud.
Just kind of hoping for the best.
Right. Exactly. I mean, they are doing it for efficiency, of course, but it requires an incredible amount of blind trust. You're giving away the institutional memory that actually makes your business competitive.
Which is exactly why today's deep dive is dedicated to a brand new and honestly incredibly refreshing strategy that was just announced today, July 23, 2026.
Hot off the presses.
Yeah, literally today. It's by EON AI Ventures, and they are rolling out what they call their open weight model strategy.
Mhm.
And I mean, just reading through the details of this announcement, it feels like a blueprint for actually protecting an enterprise while still, leaning into the future.
It really represents a major paradigm shift. The mission for our discussion today is to zero in on the immense benefits of this specific architecture.
Because there are a lot of them.
There really are. We're going to unpack how EON is essentially handing control of operational knowledge back to the enterprise. We'll look at how they kept that data sovereign and secure. And crucially, how they're generating this highly adaptable intelligence that actually functions out in the messy physical world, not just inside some neat little browser window.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get into the technical plumbing, the actual nuts and bolts of servers and software, we really need to understand the philosophical shift EON is making here.
Yeah, the philosophy is the bedrock of all this.
It is, and it's fundamentally about where knowledge should live in a modern company.
Well, to understand why EON's approach is such a breakthrough, you first have to understand the inherent limitation of the current default path.
Which is what everyone is doing right now.
Right, which is relying solely on massive closed cloud models. I'm talking about frontier models like OpenAI or Claude.
Sure.
Now, to be clear, those closed models are phenomenal at what they do. I mean, they're spectacular for rapid development, generating code, or, processing complex generalized reasoning tasks.
But relying on them as the absolute core of your business operations, that comes with a massive structural catch.
A debilitating catch, structurally speaking. When you build your core workflows entirely around a closed model, you surrender control over almost every critical variable.
Yeah, it's a huge risk.
It is. You surrender control over pricing, which, the provider can change unilaterally at any time. You surrender control over availability.
Right, like if their data center goes offline, your entire business just stops.
Exactly. And most dangerously, you surrender control over model behavior and deployment location. You are essentially a captive audience to whoever owns that algorithm.
It's like building this massive, beautiful, custom-designed factory, but putting it on leased land where the landlord can just change the locks or double the rent at any moment.
That is a perfect analogy.
And EON's radical idea here is that the AI model itself should just be a replaceable reasoning engine. It should not be the permanent home of your corporate knowledge.
Precisely. The AI model should just be a tool that helps the enterprise reason, recognize patterns, take action. Yeah. But the permanent memory, the step-by-step procedures, the historical evidence, the highly specific domain knowledge that needs to live in an entirely separate, immutable space.
Which makes total sense.
There is actually this defining quote in the release from Dan Lajerskar, the chairman of EON AI Ventures, that just perfectly captures this philosophy. He states, "We do not want a customer's operational memory trapped inside a rented brain."
Trapped inside a rented brain. I love that framing so much.
It really hits home, doesn't it?
It does. It reminds me of like hiring a brilliant freelance consultant. You want that consultant to come in, apply their incredible reasoning skills to organize your supply chain or optimize your workflows.
Right, do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, solve complex problems.
Yeah.
but you definitely don't want them walking out the door at the end of the contract with your only copy of the company playbook locked inside their head.
Exactly.
You want sovereignty over your own data.
Yeah.
You want the playbook to stay in your building.
That is a highly accurate way to view it. And from an enterprise perspective, it shifts the power dynamic entirely. Your data, your operational memory, it remains yours.
Completely isolated from the vendor.
Yes, untouched by the changing tides of the AI market. If a better, freelance consultant comes along next year, you just hand them your playbook.
So, okay, the philosophy of separating the brain from the memory makes total sense. But I want to dig into the execution here.
Sure.
Because practically speaking, if you separate the intelligence from the data storage, how do they actually talk to each other without creating immense latency or just breaking a company's workflow entirely?
This raises a really important question, and it's exactly where the architecture of EON's strategy becomes so impressive. It relies on a true separation of powers.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the durable memory, which includes your approved procedures, historical asset data, engineering standards, all those validated learnings that stay safely inside governed repositories.
Got it.
EON specifically refers to these as customer digital twins and the EON Work Intelligence Core.
Okay, let's pause on digital twin for a second because honestly, that term gets thrown around a lot in tech right now.
Oh, constantly. It's a huge buzzword.
Yeah. So what does that actually look like technologically in this specific context? Are we talking about like a 3D hologram of an oil rig?
Well, not necessarily a 3D hologram, though. I mean, it can include spatial data. But in this architecture, a customer digital twin is a highly structured, dynamic knowledge graph.
The knowledge graph, okay.
Imagine a massive interconnected database where a specific water pump is mathematically linked to its entire maintenance history, its exact technical schematics, the real-time sensor data coming off of it, and the safety protocols required to fix it.
Wow. So it's everything about that asset.
Everything. It's basically the digital nervous system of the enterprise. And
Okay.
critically, these vaults are either EON controlled or entirely customer controlled.
So those are the permanent vaults. That's where the crown jewels live safely behind your own corporate firewall.
Exactly.
But how do we connect that vault to the temporary replaceable AI models without risking the data?
To bridge that gap safely, EON uses something called the EON Model Gateway. Think of it as a master switchboard or even a universal translator.
A universal translator is a great way to picture it. How exactly does it translate, though? What is the mechanical function of this gateway?
It acts as an API abstraction layer. So when an engineer out in the field requests help troubleshooting a valve, that request goes straight to the gateway.
Okay.
The gateway selects the appropriate AI model for the job, but before it sends the prompt, it translates the request into the specific technical dialect that particular AI model understands best.
Oh, that's clever.
Right. It applies necessary safety guardrails, sends the prompt, gets the reasoning back from the AI, and then translates that answer back into the exact standardized format that the digital twin and the end user expect.
So that's the secret sauce for continuity right there.
It is.
If you swap out one AI model for another behind the scenes, the end user doesn't even notice because the gateway ensures the inputs and outputs always look exactly the same to the system of record.
Exactly. The gateway completely abstracts the complexity of the AI market away from the daily operations of the business. You just don't have to worry about it.
Okay, I'm going to push back on this a little bit, though.
Go for it.
In theory, having interchangeable models sounds amazing, but isn't it a massive logistical headache to actively maintain and constantly swap between multiple different brains?
That's a fair concern.
Like, why go through all the trouble of building this universal translator instead of just, I don't know, running a massive evaluation once, picking the single most powerful model on the market, and just committing to it?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the idea of a single best model is an absolute myth when it comes to industrial operations.
Really? A myth?
Yeah, entirely. Different tasks demand radically different cognitive approaches and, frankly, more importantly, different hardware requirements. EON avoids the friction you're talking about by maintaining a highly structured bake-off portfolio approach.
A bake-off portfolio.
Yeah. They don't just swap models randomly. They map specific models to specific jobs based on really intense benchmarking.
Give me an example of how that mapping works. Like, what models are actually making the cut in this portfolio?
So EON's current architecture outlines a very precise division of labor. For practical, everyday production tasks, the heavy lifting of standard operational work, they benchmark an open weight model like Quen 3.627B.
Okay, let's define open weight really quickly for anyone who isn't, deep in the developer weeds.
Sure, yeah.
How does that differ from the closed models we mentioned earlier?
It's a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
With a closed model, you are basically ordering food from a restaurant. You get the meal, but you can't see the kitchen, you don't know the recipe, and you definitely can't cook it yourself.
Right.
Open weight means the developers have released the fully trained neural network, the actual mathematical weights and connections that make up the AI's brain.
So you get the whole brain.
Exactly. You don't necessarily get the raw data they use to train it, but you get the complete brain, which means you can download it, host it on your own private servers, inspect it, and run it completely disconnected from the original creator.
That makes total sense. So Qwen 3.627b is an open weight model, meaning a company can run it entirely on their own private servers.
Yeah.
What does the 27b mean, though?
That refers to 27 billion parameters. You can think of parameters as the synapses in a brain.
Okay, synapses, got it.
27 billion is a robust, mid-sized model. It's incredibly smart, highly capable for daily tasks, but it doesn't require a literal football field of servers to run. It's efficient.
Okay, so that's the dependable daily driver for standard tasks. What else is in the portfolio?
For agentic workflows, and these are tasks where the AI needs to act more autonomously, stringing together multi-step processes or utilizing software tools, they look to NVIDIA Nematron 3.
Oh, Mimatron.
Yeah. It's architected specifically for that kind of logical multi-step execution. Then, as a high-end challenger for exceptionally difficult reasoning, they are evaluating Kimi K3, though they do note that's pending various licensing and security reviews.
Notice what is conspicuously missing from that operational lineup, though. The massive closed frontier models.
Yes, exactly. The closed models, OpenAI, Claude, and their peers, they are relegated strictly to what EON calls the build plane.
The build plane.
Right. They are used by developers as helpers for coding, rapid prototyping, and, non-sensitive evaluations, but they are emphatically not the operational system of record.
So they're kept completely separate.
Yes. They never touch the live proprietary data environments.
That is such a distinct, deliberate boundary. It really reinforces that philosophy of sovereignty.
Absolutely.
So having this pristine portfolio of models cleanly organized and running on private cloud servers is fantastic for the corporate office.
Sure.
But EON is building this for the physical world. And in the physical world, out on an offshore oil rig or, say, deep underground in a mining operation, Wi-Fi connectivity just vanishes.
Right, the cloud is gone.
The cloud disappears entirely. How does this intelligence actually get securely to the front lines?
Well, this is where we shift from cloud architecture to the gritty reality of the factory floor. To solve the edge deployment problem, EON introduces a mechanism called the distillery.
The distillery.
And it's really important to clarify what the distillery is not. It is not a database. It is not the digital twin we discussed earlier. And it is certainly not an AI model itself.
Okay, if it's not a database or an AI, what is it mechanically?
Mechanically, it is a governed factory. It is a highly automated data pipeline that connects field learning back to the core models and repositories. And it does this through 3 very specific, highly regulated jobs.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's walk through those jobs. Imagine a technician out in the field is working on a turbine. They discover a new, slightly more efficient way to calibrate it. Or maybe they encounter a strange failure that just isn't in the manual. They document this on their device. How does the distillery handle that raw, unverified data?
Well, that triggers job number 1, which is to refine learning. Because you can't just dump unverified field notes straight into the corporate brain.
Right, that would be chaos.
Total chaos. So the distillery takes that raw field evidence and cleans it. Crucially, it uses local classifiers to separate private knowledge from generic knowledge.
How does it physically do that, though? Like, if a technician types a whole paragraph, the proprietary secrets and the generic mechanical issues are all jumbled together in the same sentences.
Right. So the distillery utilizes entity extraction and vector scrubbing.
Vector scrubbing, okay.
Yeah. It scans the text and automatically masks out personally identifiable information, proprietary serial numbers, or specific facility names. It isolates the underlying mechanical or procedural pattern, what we call the generic learning, so that it can be safely analyzed without exposing any sensitive trade secrets.
That is so smart.
And then it scores the information for confidence and risk.
So it's performing automated quality control and sanitization.
Precisely. And there are strict lanes here. A low-risk, high-confidence typo fix might get automated approval to just go ahead and update the manual.
That makes sense.
But higher-risk changes at basically anything related to safety protocols or major operational shifts, Those are automatically flagged and routed to a human supervisor for review.
I love that.
Yeah, the human remains firmly in the loop where the stakes are highest.
That just brings incredible peace of mind. Okay, so once that field data is sanitized and approved, either by the system or a human, where does it go next?
That leads to job 2, which is to improve the brain. The distillery takes that newly approved knowledge and uses it to systematically tune the EON-controlled models and build what are called domain adapters.
Domain adapters.
Yeah.
I imagine that's a way of teaching the AI without having to, rebuild its entire brain from scratch every time.
That's a great way to visualize it. Training a massive AI model from scratch takes millions of dollars and months of computing time. It's incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
A domain adapter, which often uses a technique called LoRa, or low-rank adaptation, is essentially a small, highly specialized plugin.
A plug-in for the brain.
Exactly. It's like handing the AI a specialized textbook on your company's specific turbines that it can reference instantly, rather than sending the AI back to complete a 4-year engineering degree.
Right.
It allows the system to get smarter based on your specific validated experience very quickly and, frankly, very cheaply.
Okay, so all of this refining and tuning is happening back at base camp.
Yeah.
But that technician on the oil rig still needs this updated intelligence in their hands offline. How does the distillery push it back out to them?
That is job 3, make the backpack.
Make the backpack.
Yeah. The distillery automatically assembles what EON refers to as a mission intelligence package. And this package is prepared specifically for deployment to the field IQ edge, which is the actual hardware out in the field.
I really love this backpack concept.
Yeah.
Let me frame this for you, the listener, because it's such a brilliant way to visualize edge computing.
It really is.
Imagine you're sending an engineer out to that offshore wind farm, right? And they have zero internet access. They can't ping the cloud.
Nothing. Complete dead zone.
Complete dead zone. The distillery essentially packs a digital backpack for their ruggedized tablet or headset. This mission intelligence package contains small, highly compressed 4 to 9 billion parameter specialist models.
And just to tie that back to our earlier definition, a 4 billion parameter model is extremely lightweight.
Right.
It's been stripped of all the general internet knowledge. It doesn't need to know how to write a sonnet or, give you a recipe for pancakes.
It just needs to know the wind farm.
Exactly. It only knows industrial mechanics, which means it is small enough to run smoothly on the local processors of a tablet, drawing very little power.
Exactly. So in that digital backpack, they have this hyper-focused, locally running AI. But the distillery also packs the exact safety rules, the relevant subset of the digital twin for that specific wind turbine, and the local reference manuals.
It's all in there.
It is a bounded, completely safe, locally running intelligence system that works seamlessly offline.
The operational capability this unlocks is just staggering. You are no longer sending an engineer into the field with a static PDF manual on an iPad.
Right. Hoping they find the right page.
Yeah. You are deploying them with an interactive reasoning engine that knows the complete maintenance history of the exact piece of equipment they're standing in front of.
It's amazing.
It operates within strict pre-approved safety parameters, and it doesn't need a single bar of cell service to function.
It is the ultimate marriage of cutting-edge AI and practical, boots-on-the-ground reality. So we've explored the philosophy of escaping the rented brain. We've looked at the architecture of the gateways, mapping out to those open-weight portfolios. And we've seen how the distillery safely processes data and packs the digital backpack for edge deployment.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. Let's pull all these threads together now. Why is this architectural approach such an absolute massive win for an enterprise?
Well, if we break down the core benefits, it really translates into a compounding list of strategic advantages. First and foremost is control and sovereignty.
Which is huge.
It's everything. Under the strategy, sensitive operational knowledge stays strictly within approved, customer-controlled boundaries. You are no longer crossing your fingers and hoping a massive tech giant's end user license agreement protects your intellectual property.
Right.
You own the vaults. You hold the keys.
Which honestly, given the regulatory environment and data privacy laws today, that is non-negotiable for any serious enterprise.
Absolutely non-negotiable. The second major benefit is continuity. Because the permanent memory is decoupled from the reasoning brain, EON can swap out, upgrade, or change the AI models entirely without the customer ever losing their governed memory.
Or disrupting their workflows.
Right. If a vastly superior open-weight model is released by the open source community tomorrow, the gateway simply routes the traffic to the new model. Your operations don't skip a beat. You aren't locked into a single vendor's ecosystem.
That agility is incredible. And the third benefit, as we just discussed with the backpack, is edge operation.
Yes.
The ability to compress these models into mission intelligence packages and support deeply technical bounded work when the cloud vanishes. I mean, that completely transforms heavy industry, defense, logistics, and manufacturing.
It's a game changer for the physical world. And the final benefit, which might actually be the most crucial for the long-term health of a business, is compounding value.
Okay, how does the value compound?
Because of the distillery. Every single time an operation is successfully completed in the field, that validated experience flows back through the system.
Right, the refining and improving jobs.
Exactly. It refines your data, it updates your domain adapters, and it optimizes your workflows. Your proprietary data assets are constantly gaining value with every real-world action.
Wow.
And because you own those assets outright, they remain immensely valuable regardless of how foundational AI models change in the broader tech landscape. Your governed data is the appreciating asset, not the temporary algorithm you rented to process it.
That is such a powerful distinction. But I think it's vital to point out a very reassuring detail for any operations director or business leader listening right now.
Definitely.
None of this, not the swapping of models, not the edge deployments, none of it is done on a whim.
Yeah.
There's a phrase EON N uses heavily here, and it's governed before deployed.
Yes, that is a critical safeguard. EON conducts rigorous industrial-grade benchmarking on every single candidate model before it ever touches a production environment. And they aren't just looking at generic AI benchmarks like, passing the bar exam.
Which doesn't help fix a turbine.
Exactly. They are testing for things that actually matter on a factory floor.
They're testing for grounded retrieval, right? Like, can the model actually find the right information in the manual?
Yes, and procedure interpretation. They're doing multimodal evaluations too.
Yeah, vision.
Yeah, exactly. Can the AI accurately identify a faulty pressure valve just by looking at a photo taken by a technician in low light?
Wow.
They rigorously measure adherence to the safety envelope. They test for refusal behavior, making sure the AI is hardwired to say, I don't know, or consult a human supervisor instead of hallucinating a dangerous guess.
That is so important.
They measure latency, hardware footprint, licensing restrictions, and ultimately the total cost per successful mission. They are treating AI deployment with the exact same exhaustive rigor that an aerospace company treats a new engine design.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? It means true future-proofing. What EON is doing with this open-weight model strategy is giving enterprises a structural blueprint to leverage the absolute smartest AI available today while seamlessly preparing to integrate the even smarter AI of tomorrow.
Perfect said.
And they are doing it all without ever risking the crown jewels of your business. You get all the intelligence with none of the vendor lock-in.
It is incredibly refreshing to see a structural approach to enterprise AI that prioritizes long-term health, safety, and data sovereignty over simply hyping up the capabilities of whatever new model just dropped.
Yeah, the hype cycle is exhausting.
It really is. EON has recognized that in the enterprise world, the so-called boring stuff, the governance, the architecture, the safety protocols, that is actually the most exciting part because that is what makes this magic practically usable at scale.
It's the infrastructure that lets the intelligence scale safely. It really feels like the blueprint the industry has been waiting for to finally move beyond those endless small-scale pilot programs and into true heavy-duty operational deployment.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really forces us to rethink the fundamental relationship between a company and its own data.
How so?
Well, if enterprise knowledge is now entirely modular, securely locked away in these dynamic digital twins, and the AI models themselves are simply interchangeable, temporary contractors that we cycle in and out as technology improves, what happens to the concept of institutional knowledge in the future?
Oh, wow. That's a deep question.
When your company's permanent memory outlives and outsmarts the very AI brains hired to process it, who is really teaching who?